Wednesday, 27th of January 2016, 1743 CET. A few topics in no particular order. First of all, touching back to my comment to the MI6 in yesterday's latest video about the 94-95 job. Regardless of the copyright you find on it, there is pre-production for such things, and I assure you that puts it at 94-95. Add to that even if it had been 96, that would have been 20 years since then, so I'm not saying he's still alive now in 2016. That's not what I'm saying. He might have died, and be it by natural reasons, anywhere along these last 20 years. He might still be alive, incidentally, mind you. But I'm not, it's not even the point if he's still alive or not. The point is that for the 94-95 job, that was him. That is the point. Then there's a couple of questions I wrote down here. For instance, one of these non-questions, I mentioned explaining how you can come get me from that course I attend for the next bunch of weeks, that I always have my cell phone in my coat. That is only since the course started. Typically, I do not carry my cell phone around with me because I don't call anybody, nor does anybody call me, and as I'm unemployed, I don't need to have a watch with me all the time. Add to that, there's a couple of public watches at all over the place, really. We have a jeweler who has a watch, and at the train station there's a public watch, and so on, a public clock that is, and at the city council house in Leasing there's a public big clock, so I don't need a fucking watch on me, right? So if you wonder, well, how can that be? Because we've been watching it and for months that thing did not leave your apartment. True. It didn't, because I don't carry it around typically. I just wanted to point out that while I'm at this course, I do carry it around. Yeah, another non-question answer. Another thing I mentioned, again touching back to yesterday, that Royal Baby 2013, the witchcraft idiocy, I was forced through the then still working scenario app to actually, I'm not making this up, bless that child. And I actually went as far as to write down a rhyme for it in English that I don't remember anymore, and I threw it away pretty much a week later or something. I just want to point out that there might be a classic thing about content theft and idea theft, because if the witchcraft delusional fuckers over on Beautiful Albion somehow miraculously got some type of blessing for that little kid, witchcraft-wise, out of ex-Austria, allegedly copyrighted by whoever the fuck, I assure you it was stolen from me. As a whole lot of other content that fucking ex-Abwärmt and ilk had me script, as in stealing my ideas and so on, to shove them Lurcher's way as truth. Okay? No kidding, no shit. Another little thing I wanted to mention. Then the general question, I talked about the Jedediah defect. What is the Jedediah defect, and moreover, where does the name come from? That is a classic case of me knowing that it's all, as I'm pondering it and thinking it and understanding it, it is all being extracted through the field. So I know that all these bastards out there know it, but I don't, you know, it is getting a little advanced to keep track on what all went into these videos and into my documents especially. Also really over at least 2 years. The first year is not that important when it comes to the documents, but they who extract through the fields know why it's called the Jedediah defect. And to you who don't know, I imagine in a somewhat humorous way, mind you, the great forefather of all American lurchies to have been that legendary, mythical, and fictive, hence, figure of Jedediah Lurch. Yee, hallelujah. Right? Jedediah Lurch, who is, I would like to point this out, not at all related to the good Lurcher of the Addams family. He was a good bloke, and he had nothing to do with lurching. Lurching, for the lay joiners, as in church floor lurching, or synagogue floor lurching, or temple floor lurching, or mosque floor lurching, or crashed UFO floor lurching, or you get the point. Lurchers. Okay? So Jedediah explained. Jedediah defect means some delusional people out there, namely lurchies, who think that there is something like a God gene or a gene that makes one religious, which it doesn't, mind you. If you took someone with a perfect, namely a horrendously damaged Jedediah defect, and had that kid grow up on some deserted island, that kid would not turn religious all by himself or herself. No way. But it would have a severe defect in its brain. That thing. Right? I explained that when I talked something about the anti-life equation. But it is something that pries your entire thinking open and your defect logic open to being susceptible to that bullshit that is religion. That's why I call it the Jedediah defect. And they go for that. They want people with the Jedediah defect. Okay? So that's why it's called the Jedediah defect. And another slight case of me not being able to read my handwriting. I just want you to understand on a biological level again about the species mankind going to the dog. See, what you out there are doing, and I am not talking at the bloody lurchies, but at those who do not think to be lurchies, allowing this all to happen, is you allow an entire species to be sacrificed, basically, because that's what it is, a sacrifice, to be sacrificed to all manners of idiocies and fictive delusions. I give you a wonderful analogy. In China, there's practically no tigers left. Why? Because the fucking Chinese go hunt them dead and eat their fucking ground up penises, because allegedly that makes them more potent. When I assure you, no, I'm not a biochemist, and yet I assure you, eating ground up tiger penises does not make you more potent, right? Now there is a case of a species sacrificing, for all practical purposes, another species to the brink of extinction for a completely fictive delusion. The interesting thing is, though, that you allowing all the lurchies to pull their shit out there, you allow that species itself to sacrifice itself to delusions and fictive concepts much worse than believing that you can fuck better if you eat tiger penises. Do you understand the level of unspeakable idiocy that you all commit by not acting? Do you understand that? For the people who follow what I have on my Mac, the By the Way World document hasn't been updated much lately. One of the more recent updates, and that's from December or November already, I'm not perfectly sure anymore, I don't want to click it open now. Just has a wee little thing about, it's actually premature birthday present, I recall I called it, so it must have been first half of December. the doctorate in Egyptology, which was a bit of a joke thing, and then again not, because it pertained to Anubis being completely fucking fake, and also Toph being completely fucking fake. There are no jackals in Egypt, and there most definitely are no anteaters in Egypt. And due to the law of duh, which I am perfectly sure those who have access to the extraction fields have not bothered to explain to you or at all let you know of, I need not further explain this. Another little thing, I mentioned in the past how every now and then I'm being given these little coughs. And in the past I mentioned once or even twice in these videos online on YouTube how that might be cutting marks. However, that goes way back to when there was a very obviously leaning towards that utilization event happening. That was back in the hot phase maybe already, and nothing on a video, but as I hear pranced up and down explaining it to the fields, and at that point back then maybe even still some surveillance after the other people had moved off from surveilling us here. See, the truth is, these little coughs can be and are being, you bet are being, utilized as generic jokers. Meaning they can be declared as anything. Meaning you go watch one of my videos and before, you being briefed or shown by your staff one of my videos, and before the guy who shows this to you presses the play button, he says, oh, by the way, I would like to remind you that he has the coughing routine on. You know, that routine where whenever he insert crap here, does a little cough. And what happens is, you can test this yourself. Choose any one video that I've loaded, that I have on YouTube, and watch it 3 times. The first time, interpreting it that the cough is a case of me truthing. The second time you watch it is a case of me lying about the truth. And the third time watching is a case of me completely making shit up. Right? Depending on what you are told to interpret these completely neutral and omni-utilizable little coughs as a secret routine to, you know, better understand him or shit like that. They are fucking you up. These are nothing but little coughs that can later on be interpreted and twisted whichever fucking way they like. That one answered. Another one that's not on here on my notepad. I caught in the news today that in London apparently they opened under some subway station or something, some World War II tunnels, bunkers, whatnot, under the subways or something. I don't quite remember. I just briefly caught this on the news. On the outside chance, and this is a very outside chance, mind you, but on the outside chance that someone tries to drag this into my urging people to get out of reception, I would like to point out, and I have done this in the past, certainly in the documents, I am not sure if London subway tunnels suffice to get out of reception. Right? Now, I understand not everyone is as fortunate to have something like Seegrote in front of their door, so to speak, like I have. It's just a few miles away from Vienna, Seegrote, which is, for those who don't know, the Seegrote is, I hope I remember the tourism prospect right, Europe's largest subterranean lake or something, and it's very deep and it's very large and whatnot. And the point I'm trying to make is that in addition to it being most probably deeper than whatever you have in London there, it is also not in a big city. Because in a big city, above ground level, you have a huge amount of a very dense and heavy and strong and intense communication networking field generally, right? IT infrastructure for reception of cell phones and whatnot. Whereas out near Mödling, where Seegotte is, you don't have that. I have explained in the past how I also was in the catacombs under St. Stephen's Cathedral here in Vienna, and down there, I even though this was meters and meters and meters beneath the earth, down there I actually still had reception from on the phone, right? And not because they had any technical relay stations or something down in the catacombs, just because it seeped through the earth above, because it's basically just earth apparently, rather loose earth or something, and gravel and whatnot. I don't know what ground you have in London, but just going down to those tunnels there might not suffice. Now, I do know that I said you should go to World War II bunkers or anything, and I just tried to point out that you should go as secluded as you possibly can. I did not say that all you have to do is go to any World War II bunker and you will be out of it. I never said that. I mentioned this so specifically to not have what I said thwarted by fucking idiots out there who then say, look, he's full of shit because it didn't work. Or worse, who give you some freak show of having come out of it when you even haven't. Okay? So I just want to say that just because I caught on the news that they just opened or are opening soon or whatever, I think the station started with a C or something. Well, you'll know what I'm talking about. So that one mentioned. And the last one here on my notepad is, what are limbos? What are limbos? Generally, I want to point out that what limbos are not. Limbos are not brains kept in jars. Okay? Limbos are not limbos are not cryogenic shit. Limbos are not heads kept alive without the bodies beneath them, so to speak, just the head or something. Nothing like that. The people in limbos are completely intact. They are in a very shallow coma for the most part. I call it a coma. At a certain point, there is semantics what you'd want to call it. It's an artificial such, mind you. However, in order to not require tons of staff to just flip them over, basically, and certain things like that, I am pretty darn sure that at least these days, in most of those limbos, the people in limbos actually, and be it in a zombie sort of, not zombie because they'd be dead, I just mean zombie as in, just shoveling along through the corridors or something, not very present to one's surrounding, that's what I mean. No, there is no voodoo and nobody is undead, don't worry. They actually eat themselves, shit themselves, walk around a little for a bit of movement themselves, all of that. Those are limbos, okay? Those are limbos. Which means get all sci-fi shit out of your head, please. So no brains in jars or any shit like that, okay? Nothing like that. Yeah, I've seen all those wonderful movies starting with black and white crap about brains in jars and whatnot. Nothing down the lines of that. Nothing at all. Okay? Nor is it transplanted brains or any shit like that. Nothing at all like that. People completely intact, being kept in a sort of kind of hospital / ward, kind of secluded from everything else, of course. And I would like to point this out. In order to get them to get a little initiative of their own into their eating themselves and shitting themselves and whatnot, some of those people, especially with any lurchy IGs, limbos and so on, might actually be kept in horrible delusions as of the theme that their limbos might have. Now, you take it from there and think it through, okay? But the point I'm trying to make is these people in limbos are intact physically. It's not just their heads, it's not just their brains or anything, it's not their brains all in a big heap or anything, right? It's nothing like that. They are fully intact, and for the most part they're kept in a dozy is the wrong word, in a shallow coma, basically. That's what I'd call it. So that's limbos explained. I talked about the tiger penises. Tiger penises. Do you understand? Can you at all imagine what I feel like as Prime Protector of Mankind, having to utilize tiger penises to make you fucking idiots out there understand what is going on here and how you are fucking idiots? Do you understand that? When I don't have handkerchiefs to blow my fucking nose? When I don't have cigarettes, this is the collected again. When I have to attend a completely motard unemployment office course. Another thing, Googling around again in the course, it turns out that, and I must admit I haven't really checked on it on easily a year, probably 1.5 years, the fake curiosity photos are all over the internet apparently, and they're all being discredited in them being fake, right? So I pointed you out to the thread that I started as with my username Trepondur on the Miniatures page back in 2013, early 2013. 2 years later, 3 years actually later, it's apparently all over the bloody internet on all manners of boards as the biggest, latest thing or something. It was remarkable because they're a little late with that shit, but so be it. And I also want to point out again that I made the horrendous mistake, because I was rather bored there at the course, I made the horrendous mistake of, on Der Standard newspaper website, clicking through the science section again, and there were articles again which were sheer and utter anal rape of science and the scientists involved. Science whole is utterly attacked and raped up the ass by the fucking lurchy IGs out there. And you all allow that to happen. And I want to close this video with kindly asking for being gotten out of here. Incidentally, I know you don't give a rat's ass, but I think today or one of these days, for over 1.5 years, not even not even existing legally anymore, Parliament of ex-Austria, they're gonna decide some new super secret agency shit law, basically, that makes very sure that American conditions will finally enter these beautiful parts of Europe. I do want to point this out because as soon as they have such a law, in their complete and utter idiocy, the grotesque little agencies of filthicles in former ex-Austria might finally just have had enough and do something that before they passed that law, for organizational reasons if nothing else, they weren't able to do. So if anybody out there at all worries about me and my well-being, you might want to hurry a bit. I just want to point this out. I do want to remind you that the fuckers from the Abwehr tried to set me aflame. I did mention this in one of the, was this in a video or? No, I think this was one of the later entries in the by the way, World document. When I mentioned how they utilized some brandsatz in a cigarette stub. And back in a hot phase, they tried a few things, and that was before they legally, not that they couldn't wiggle out of it then even, but now they don't even have to wiggle if they pass this law. No, I'm not worried by that law because, as I explained, if I go dead, mankind goes dead, and they go dead. I worry, not to a being fearful way, I worry about mankind, because until I am dead, I will worry about mankind, because you out there in your idiocy, and the problem is that every single motherfucking one of you seems to think that you matter. You seem to think that your little fears of being caught or but the consequences and whatnot matter, when you do not matter. This is about the species mankind. Try to get that in your heads. Get my ass out of Vienna, have money come my way.